Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unlocking the gates of the old Montana prison. It's a place where a really violent past has somehow turned into a huge paranormal attraction. We're going to dig into how this notorious place got its seriously haunted reputation. So, you got to ask yourself, why do people actually pay to go explore one of the most violent prisons in America? What is it that pulls us into places with such a dark, disturbing past? Are we just looking for a history lesson, a cheap thrill, or is it something way deeper? That's really the core question we're going to unpack here. So, after the prison officially shut down, this massive, intimidating place didn't just crumble away. Nope, it was completely reborn. A nonprofit foundation took it over, and now it's this huge tourist spot. They've kept the imposing stone walls, the steel bars, but the audience is, let's just say, very different now. But here's the thing, people aren't just showing up for a standard history tour. Oh no. The prison really leans into its dark side. We're talking ghost tours, historical dusk tours, even something called interactive lockdowns. These aren't just tours. They're designed to give you a front row seat to the prison's most infamous and maybe, just maybe, permanent residents. And look, this reputation for being haunted, it's not just some local ghost story. It has gone completely mainstream. You might have even seen it. Season 11 of Ghost Adventures, the crew brought all their cameras inside. They investigated the stories of ghostly inmates, that deadly 1959 riot, and yeah, that pretty much cemented the prison's status as a top-tier paranormal hotspot. So, what exactly happened inside these walls to create such a terrifying legacy? I mean, to really get the whole haunting thing, you first have to understand the history. And that history, it really centers on one absolutely catastrophic event, the 1959 riot. It all kicked off on the afternoon of April 16th, 1959. A prison guard, a guy named Clyde Sollers, heard this sudden, sharp sound, like a board falling flat. And that sound, well, that was the signal. It was the start of one of the most violent prison takeovers in American history. The person pulling all the strings in this chaos was one man, Jerry Miles. And you have to understand, Miles was not your average inmate. He was a career criminal who'd done time in some of the country's absolute toughest federal prisons. We're talking Alcatraz. Official records, both federal and state, straight up called him a psychopath. This was a man who was, weirdly enough, completely at home inside a prison. And this is where it gets really interesting. There's this huge conflict in what people thought was happening versus the reality. The warden at the time, Floyd Powell, he claimed the whole riot was just a botched escape attempt. But that just wasn't true. Miles himself once told a sociologist, and I quote, "Prison is my home." He had zero intention of going anywhere. So if it wasn't about escaping, what did he want? Simple. Attention. Miles took 24 guards hostage. He made these terrifying threats. He was going to murder them, burn them alive. He basically turned the prison into his own personal stage, just soaking up the chaos as newspaper reporters and crowds gathered outside the walls. He was building, in his own twisted mind, a monument to himself. And you know what? He got exactly what he wanted. His bloody spectacle absolutely captivated the nation. It even got a huge feature in Life magazine, which called it one of the most spectacular prison riots in America. And just like that, the event was cemented in the history of American crime. But that crazy 1959 riot, it wasn't some random, one-off event. It was more like the explosive peak of a long, simmering history of violence and death that really defined the old Montana prison from its earliest days. Yeah, brutal events were practically a tradition here. Long before Jerry Miles ever showed up, you had these legendary figures like Turkey Pete. And then, decades later, in 1991, another riot blows up, leading to the murder of 5 inmates. Violence, it seems, was just a constant. Now, not all the legends were violent. Some were just really strange. Take Paul Eitner. Everybody called him Turkey Pete. He was sentenced to life back in 1918. He was declared insane, and he just became this harmless fixture around the prison. The guards even played along with his delusion that he owned the place, letting him buy it and pay their salaries with fake money. He's now one of the most famous spirits people claim to see haunting the grounds. And even as late as the 1990s, this place was a total powder keg. That 1991 riot was horrifically violent. 2 inmates, William Gollyhon and Douglas Turner, murdered 5 of their fellow prisoners who they thought were informants. It was just another dark, bloody layer added to the prison's already nightmarish history. So this long, brutal legacy of violence and tragedy, that's what brings us to the prison's identity today. How in the world has all of that darkness been repackaged for a modern audience? Well, what they've basically done is turn their own tragedy into a product. All that very real suffering, the riots, the murders, that's now the main attraction. The museum uses this incredibly dark history as the foundation for its paranormal tours. They're literally marketing the echoes of that violence as something you can come and experience for yourself. And just listen to how they pitch these things. Ghost tours invite you to seek out the lost souls. These interactive lockdowns are for people who love the paranormal. See? These aren't just walkthroughs of an old building. They're direct invitations to engage with the prison's haunted legacy. So the men who actually lived, breathed, and died inside these walls, they've been transformed. Their real, often tragic lives have now become the ghost stories that guides tell in the dark. Jerry Miles, the psychopath who craved the spotlight, he's now this terrifying shadow figure. And Turkey Pete, the quirky old inmate, he's become a mischievous spirit. History has literally turned into folklore. Okay, so this brings us right back to where we started, to that central question. Now that we understand the grim reality of this place, why are we still so drawn to it? Seriously, when we walk through those gates, what are we really looking for? Is it a connection to history? Is it a safe way to get close to the idea of our own mortality? Maybe. Maybe it's this desire to feel the echoes of events so extreme that they seem to have left a permanent stain on a place. The old Montana prison, it doesn't really offer any easy answers, but its haunted halls definitely force us to ask ourselves why we find the darkness so incredibly fascinating.